Gaucho is the seventh studio album by the American jazz rock band Steely Dan, released on November 21, 1980 by MCA Records. The sessions for Gaucho represent the band's typical penchant for studio perfectionism and obsessive recording technique. To record the album, the band used at least 42 different musicians, spent over a year in the studio, and far exceeded the original monetary advance given by the record label. During the 2-year span in which the album was recorded, the band was plagued by a number of creative, personal and professional problems. MCA, Warner Brothers, and Steely Dan had a three-way legal battle over the rights to release the album. After it was released, jazz musician Keith Jarrett threatened the band with legal action for writing credit on the title song, Gaucho. Gaucho marked a significant stylistic change for Steely Dan, introducing a more minimal, groove and atmosphere-based format. The harmonically complex chord changes that were a distinctive mark of earlier Steely Dan songs are less prominent on Gaucho, with the record's songs tending to revolve around a single rhythm or mood. Gaucho proved to be Steely Dan's final studio album before a 20-year absence from the recording industry. Background: exceptional difficulties plagued the album's production. By 1978, Donald Fagen and Walter Becker had established themselves as the only two permanent members of Steely Dan, using a revolving cast of session musicians to record the songs they wrote together. However, the pair's working relationship began to strain, largely because of Becker's increasing drug use. During the course of the Gaucho sessions, Becker was hit by a car while walking home late one Saturday night to his apartment on the Upper West Side. Becker managed to push the woman he was with out of harm's way, but sustained multiple fractures in one leg, a sprain in the other leg, as well as other injuries. During his 6-month recovery, he suffered from secondary infections. While Becker was in the hospital, he and Fagen continued their musical collaborations via telephone. Becker's personal problems continued to mount when his girlfriend, Karen Roberta Stanley, died of a drug overdose at his home on January 30, 1980. Her family attempted to sue him for $17.5 million in January 1981, claiming that he had introduced the woman to cocaine, morphine, barbiturates, and heroin. The court later ruled in Becker's favor. Composition: Hal Leonard's Best of Steely Dan explains that Gaucho is a concept album of 7 interrelated tales about would-be hipsters. The lyrics of Hey 19 are about an aging hipster attempting to pick up a girl who is so young that she does not recognize Aretha Franklin playing on the stereo. The song closes with the ambiguous line, "The Cuervo Gold, the fine Colombian, make tonight a wonderful thing," leaving it up to the listener whether the narrator is consuming tequila and drugs with the love interest, or if he is in fact alone. Resemblances between the subject of glamour profession and then second-year NBA player Magic Johnson have been noted but not confirmed as intentional, particularly as the recording of the album coincided with the player's arrival to the city and the onset of the Showtime era of the Los Angeles Lakers and how it paralleled the L.A. lifestyle at that time. Years later, the line, "Living hard will take its toll," would almost seem to have been prescient after the player's HIV announcement. Stuart Mason of AllMusic says that "Time Out of Mind" is a barely veiled song about heroin, specifically a young man's first experience with the drug at the hands of a pretentious, pseudo-religious crank talking of chasing the dragon, with the mystical sphere direct from Lhasa. Single quote, recording sessions. With 1977's Aja, the duo had become accustomed to recording with Los Angeles-based session musicians. The transmission back to using New York City players during the Gaucho sessions proved difficult, as the musicians were unenthusiastic about Becker and Fagen's obsessive, perfectionistic recording style. Sessions for Gaucho began in New York City during 1978. Fagen and Becker hired Mark Knopfler to play the guitar solo on "Time Out of Mind" after hearing him play on Dire Straits' hit single, "Sultans of Swing." Several hours of Knopfler's playing were recorded at the session, but his contributions as heard on the record are limited to a matter of seconds. The album's mixing sessions proved to be just as difficult as the recording sessions. It took Becker, Fagen, Nichols and Katz over 55 tries to properly mix the 50-second fade-out of Babylon Sisters' drum recording. Even though the session players hired for Gaucho were amongst the most talented from both the East and West Coast session fraternities, Fagen and Becker were still not satisfied with the basic tracks for some of the songs, particularly with regard to the timing of the drum tracks. In a 2006 interview for Sound on Sound magazine, Donald Fagen stated that he and Becker told recording engineer Roger Nichols, "It's too bad that we can't get a machine to play the beat we want, with full-frequency drum sounds, and to be able to move the snare drum and kick drum around independently." Nichols replied, "I can do that. This was back in 1978 or something. So we said, you can do that. To which he said, yes. All I need is $150,000. So we gave him the money out of our recording budget. And 6 weeks later he came in with this machine, and that is how it all started." Quote, Nichols named the drum machine Wendell. Subsequently, Wendell was awarded a platinum record, according to Ken Michaeleff in an article in Modern Drummer. The title song's drum track was assembled from 46 different takes. The drummer on the session, Jeff Porcaro, is quoted as saying, "From noon till 6 would play the tune over and over and over again, nailing each part. We'd go to dinner and come back and start recording. They made everybody play like their life depended on it. But they weren't gonna keep anything anyone else played that night, no matter how tight it was. All they were going for was the drum track." Quote, drummer Bernard Purdie plays his signature halftime shuffle beat, the Purdie Shuffle, on Babylon Sisters. The second arrangement, outtakes and bootlegs. The second arrangement had been a favorite of producer Gary Katz and Nichols. In late December 1979, after weeks of working on a particular recording of the track, approximately 3/4 of the song was accidentally erased by an assistant engineer who had been asked by Katz to ready the track for listening. The band attempted to re-record the track, but eventually abandoned the song entirely. Steely Dan biographer Brian Sweet has written that the group abandoned the song in favor of focusing on "Third World Man." The second arrangement was never played live by Steely Dan until a Rarities show on September 17, 2011. A studio recording of the song remains unreleased. However, a handful of demo and outtake recordings of the song exist in bootleg form. In addition to the second arrangement, a number of songs were written for the album, but ultimately left off Gaucho. A number of these songs were included on a bootleg titled The Lost Gaucho, which represents recordings from early in the album's sessions. Song titles include "Kind Spirit", "Coolie Baba", "The Bear", "Talkin' About My Home", as well as the second arrangement. An early version of "Third World Man" with alternate lyrics is included under the title "Were You Blind That Day?". This recording dates from the Arja sessions. Cover art. The cover art is based upon a wall plaque entitled "Guardia Vieja Tango", Old Guard Tango, located in a Southside Buenos Aires promenade known as Caminito, by Argentine artist Israel Hoffman. Release Just prior to release, the band members had another argument with MCA over the retail price. MCA made Steely Dan a test case for its new superstar pricing policy, whereby new albums by top-selling artists would sell for $9.98, $1 more than those of other artists. Reception. Reviews. The album was given 4.5 stars from Rolling Stone's Ariel Swartley, who said of the album, "After years of hibernation in the studio, the metamorphosis that began with the Royal Scam is complete. Steely Dan have perfected the aesthetic of the tease." The New York Times gave Gaucho a positive review, later deeming it the best album of 1980. Beating out Talking Heads' Remain in Light and Joy Division's Closer. The album also received positive reviews from the Montreal Gazette and Pop Matters. Not all reviews were positive. The second edition of the Rolling Stone Album Guide, which gave all of Steely Dan's previous releases at least 3 stars out of 5, gave Gaucho a 1-star rating. Critic Dave Marsh called it the kind of music that passes for jazz in Holiday Inn lounges, with the kind of lyrics that pass for poetry in freshman English classes. Gaucho also received a lukewarm review from the Pittsburgh Press's Pete Bishop. Robert Christgau of The Village Voice gave it a tepid review and rated a B. Sales charts. The album reached number 9 on the U.S. album chart and was certified platinum. Hey 19 reached number 10 on the U.S. singles chart, and went to number 1 in Canada. The album reached number 27 on the UK Albums Chart. Awards. Gaucho won the 1981 Grammy Award for Best Non-Classical Engineered Recording. Track listing. All songs written by Walter Becker and Donald Fagen, except where noted. Side 1. Babylon Sisters, 5:49. Hey 19, 5:06. Glamour Profession, 7:29. Side 2. Gaucho, Becker, Fagen, Keith Jarrett, 5:32. Time Out of Mind, 4:13. My Rival, 4:34. Third World Man, 5:15. Personnel. Steely Dan. Donald Fagen, lead vocals. Synthesizer. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Electric piano. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Organ. 6. Walter Becker, bass. 2, 4, 5. Guitar. 2, 5. Guitar solo. 4. Additional musicians. Rob Mounsey, piano. 3, 4, 5. Synthesizer. 7. Horn arrangement. 1, 5. Don Grolnick, electric piano. 1. And Hohner clavinet. 1. Pat Ribio. 6. Electric piano. Joe Sample. 7. Electric piano. Steve Kahn, guitar. 1, 3, 4, 7. Lead guitar. 6. Mark Knopfler. 5. Lead guitar. Larry Carlton. 7. Lead guitar. Hugh McCracken. 2, 5. Guitar. Hiram Bullock. 6. Guitar. Rick Derringer. 6. Guitar. Chuck Rainey. 1, 7. Bass. Anthony Jackson. 3, 6. Bass. Bernard Pretty Purdy. 1. Rick Marotta. 2, 5. Drums. Steve Gadd. 2, 3, 6, 7. Drums. Jeff Porcaro. 4. Drums. Crusher Bennett. 1, 4. Percussion. Victor Feldman. 2. Percussion. Ralph McDonald. 3, 6. Percussion. Nicholas Marrero. 6. Percussion. George Marge. Walter Kane, clarinet. 1. Tom Scott, alto saxophone and clarinet. 1. Tenor saxophone. 1, 3, 4, 6. Lyricon. 3, 6. Horn arrangement. 3, 4, 6. David Sanborn, alto saxophone. 5. Michael Brecker, 3. 5. 6. Dave Toffani, 5. Tenor saxophone. Ronnie Cuba, baritone saxophone, 5. Randy Brecker, trumpet, 1. 4. 5. Flugelhorn, 1. 6. Wayne Andra, trombone, 6. Michael McDonald, Patty Austin, Valerie Simpson, Frank Floyd, Diva Gray, Gordon Grody, Lani Groves, Leslie Miller, Zachary Sanders, Tony Wine, backing vocals. Production. Producers. Gary Katz. Executive producers. Paul Bischow. Roger Nichols. Executive engineer. Roger Nichols. Assistant engineers. John Doc Doherty. Jerry Gabinelli. Craig Gurch. Tom Gretto. Barbara Isaac. Georgia Offerell. John Potoka. Linda Randazzo. Marty Robertson. Carla Bandini. Production coordination. Jeff Fuhrer. Margaret Goldfarb. Shannon Stekeloff. Mixing. Elliot Shiner. Mix down. Elliot Shiner. Coordination. Michael Etchart. Sequencing. Roger Nichols. Wendell. Tracking. Elliot Shiner. Bill Schnee. Mastering. Bob Ludwig. Overdubs. Jerry Gasver. Roger Nichols. Surround mix. Elliot Shiner. Rhythm arrangements. Paul Griffin. Don Grolnick. Rob Mounsey. Steely Dan. Horn arrangements. Rob Mounsey. Tom Scott. Piano technician. Don Farrar. Special effects. Roger Nichols. Wendell. Consultant. Daniel Levitin. Art direction. Vartan. Suzanne Walsh. Design. Michael Deal. Suzanne Walsh. Design assistant. John Tom Coho. Photography. Renee Burry. Photo research. Ryan Null. Liner notes. Walter Becker. Donald Fagan. Frank Kafka. Liner note translation. Victor D'Isuvero. Charts. Album. Singles. Complete lyrics.